Hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the ACA show reminding you that it's just a jump to the left and then a step to the right. My co-hosts this week are everyone's favorite androgynous cat cyborg, V La Bianca.
Meow.
And here about the reaping is a Miss Death or something, Miss Seraphina Smith.
Death needs no introduction, Christy.
Well, happy Halloween and welcome to our fall holiday mailbag, where we spend the whole episode answering your questions.
And if you are interested in asking us questions tonight, feel free to call in at 512-991-9242 or toll free online at tiny.cc/callsex. We have open lines and we'd love to hear from you as we read through these emails that we got. If you want to contribute to our next mailbag episode, which should be happening in a couple of months, feel free to email us at sex@atheist-community.org or go to our Facebook page that's run by fans, and no doubt we will have our mods posting up queries there as well.
All right, well, let's jump into it. Sarah, what is that first email?
I have a mail from a listener who would like to speak, and so I will deliver this. She says, if a person such as myself, who is a transgender woman who has a penis, is attracted sexually to specifically people with vaginas, what kind of sexual orientation would this be? I am very bad with labels, and when asked about this, I generally tend to say I am psychologically lesbian, but biologically straight, which is very likely the wrong way to put it, but I cannot find better words or terms yet. I acknowledge that both gender and sex are spectrums, but the way to define a sexual orientation still eludes me. I'm trying my best to educate myself when it comes to these issues, as I have to personally deal with them every day as well.
I missed death. Not everyone can say that,
that's very on brand for you, V. I feel like that's nobody in the chat is like, what?
That's fair. I mean, I don't know, Christy, where are you coming from with this one?
Yeah, I tend to believe that our orientation language is reflexive on our own gender. And we can talk about whether or not that's useful. I've tried very unsuccessfully on this show to convince people that we should be using words like gynophilic or phallophilic instead of gay or straight. But that's never going to catch on because it might be very terrible. That being said, when we talk about being a lesbian, we're generally assuming that we are women and the people we're attracted to are women, regardless of their parts. And so I think that that's the word that applies here. But I don't want to speak out of school with the two of y'all. I'd love to hear how you experience these ideas.
Yeah, well, for me, I really like the term sapphic. When talking about identities sexually or orientations that prefer women or feminine presenting people, because that kind of takes you out of the equation. So it doesn't really matter what your gender is or where you are on that spectrum. If you are sapphic, that means that you have a specific type of person you're attracted to. But there's also a very large community of bisexual lesbians and Enby lesbians and people who do not identify as cis women who also are lesbians. And a lot of the discourse around that I've heard is a lesbian means not attracted to men. So that could be somebody who's attracted to women and non-binary people, or women and they themselves are, regardless of their gender. If you are attracted to not men, then you can call yourself a lesbian, according to many of these more open and less gatekeepy online circles. That's always going to get pushback, especially from more gender critical or turfy kind of crowds. So I don't think there's a win-win here where you'll find a word that everyone agrees is like, oh yeah, clearly that is what you are, because the community doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But I think that you could very easily call yourself a lesbian. You could call yourself just sapphic if you would like. But yeah, you certainly do not have to be a cis woman in order to be a lesbian.
I would like to add that if you are attracted to people with a certain anatomy, I do not understand why you would be attracted to anyone, since you cannot see their anatomy until you are having relations with them. But I think that if you are attracted to women and you are a woman or anything along those lines, that a lesbian is just fine if you wish. Sapphic is also a very good word. None of it really matters in the end, though. We're all heading for the same place.
That is a really good point, though, Death, that you make, that there is this tendency to say, oh, I'm attracted to people with a certain, anatomy or genitalia, and kind of that's making some assumptions about the people that you're seeing, because I'm assuming that unless you're actively looking at porn, like, you're not going to people and your first impression is looking at their genitalia.
What's in your pants?
Right.
Not in polite society.
So yeah, that's a very good point as well. Is it actually the anatomy, or is it, other stuff about them that actually attracts you? But yeah, I think if you want to call yourself a lesbian, you can. There doesn't need to be an asterisk by it. And sapphic is always a good term to use as well.
Well, and I should add here, if not already, that the emails that we're reading are in many times kind of cut down and maybe shortened to get to the point and just make for better air. Only to say that I do think that a little bit of that was discussed in the original email. So I definitely don't want to seem as if we're mischaracterizing anybody's comments, while also just trying to get to some of the deep idea around some of these things.
Oh, for sure. These are all very amazing questions, but also jumping off points for larger conversations.
Mm-hmm.